Welcome to episode 149 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to be talking with Lisa Woodruff of Organize 365 about how you can live an organized life. Visit truthforteachers.com to ask a question or to share your thoughts in the comments. This episode is brought to you in part by Brains On. If you've ever listened to podcasts with your students, then you know it's a great way to engage their minds and spark their imaginations without relying on screens. There's a kids' history show called Forever Ago, and it dives into the fascinating backstory of everyday things like clocks and shoes and skateboards to teach kids how to think critically about the past. Forever Ago uses games, skits, and real kids to keep students engaged while teaching important lessons along the way. You can listen for free to Forever Ago, as well as to a kids' science podcast called Brains On. They're both at brainson.org or wherever you get your podcasts. So I'm speaking today with Lisa Woodruff. She is a former classroom teacher who now owns her own business and teaches organizational skills for a living. I'm a subscriber to her Organize 365 podcast. If you like learning about the mindset of organization and practical tips, I highly recommend you check out her podcast. Most of her episodes are focused on the home, but she does also have episodes on classroom organization, and she does speak directly to teachers in specific episodes. Also, if you struggle with keeping your classroom papers organized, Lisa has a teacher workbox. It's a system that she created to help you find a manageable way to handle all the papers that come across your desk. So it's a physical box that's mailed to your house, and it has the special folders inside, and it comes with training videos and a course. It's a pretty cool system. So you can check that out by clicking the link that is in the show notes. So in your podcast app, there should be a little I button or information button where you can click to see the written summary of the episode. There's a clickable link there. That link is my affiliate link, and I earn a portion of the sales of the teacher workbox at no additional cost to you. So this is a really conversational interview rather than like a focused one where we're trying to hit 5 key points or something like that. And I think you'll find that Lisa's energy and her ambition, her enthusiasm is just contagious. She makes you just want to go out and take action. It's pretty cool. So Lisa, tell us about what you're really passionate about and what your mission is right now in your work.
Oh my goodness, Angela, thank you so much for having me on. I am passionate about helping women get out from behind the laundry and the dishes so that they have more time to do whatever they were uniquely created to do, which is different for every single person.
What is it about organization that you're so passionate about? Why do you think that that's such a transformational thing for women to find their path with?
I think that to live an organized life frees up your time. So I often say that there's time and money, and it's kind of like a yin or a yang. And often we will sacrifice our time to save money, when if you just spent a little bit of money, you would get a lot more time back. I see organization the same way. Like often I would find that if I was doing something repetitively, but I stopped and I really analyzed and questioned and thought about what I was doing, I could streamline it a little bit and save myself 5 or 10 minutes. But 5 or 10 minutes a week over time would gain me a lot more time. And I knew that I was successful in a lot of the things I did because I was organized. And most specifically, I saw it in the direct sales field. So I'd been in a lot of direct sales companies, and whoever was organized and able to replicate what they were doing with their downline always made like 10x what everybody else made. And it didn't matter what they were selling. It did not matter what they were selling. The fact that they were organized and able to create a system that other people could replicate would 10x their income. So I knew that organization was the way to get more money. It was a way to get more time. And if I could teach people that organized way of thinking, they then could use that for whatever they wanted to get more time and money for.
So everyone wants to be organized. But some people would probably describe themselves as like not naturally organized people. Do you think that that's such a thing? Is there such a thing as like naturally organized, it comes easy to you, and then people for whom it's going to be a struggle?
Yeah, I think we definitely have natural tendencies. Like I'm an analytical math person. I'm dyslexic. Like you could teach me spelling for the rest of my life and I still have to go there, THEIR, like it's the in the word there. Every time I type it, do you know how many times I type that word a day? Like it is not automatic for me. Like it's spelling is just not automatic for me. And I am a born organized person. Like my mom would take me shopping and I would sit on the floor at the age of 2 and sort buttons in a button box. This is not normal. So I'm naturally organized. And I always thought, well, you either are or you aren't. And so I was a professional organizer. I was like, yep, I got to come in and I need to organize you because I'm sorry, you're just not naturally organized. But what I found over time was that as a teacher, I was teaching them what I was doing as I went through it. And I would get these cancellations. I was like, why are they canceling? Their house is a hot mess, you know? And what happened was they were learning and they didn't need me to finish the house. Like if I did a couple of rooms with them, they could finish because they saw the process I went through. It was a systematic process. And this was probably middle of 2012, after I'd started Organize 365, that I realized this. I was like, oh, it's teachable. They can learn. Game on. Like, okay, I will professionally organize people because that's how I was earning my money. But then I knew that the Organize 365 blog was going to work because I just needed to then analyze and figure out what was it I was teaching and how do you teach that over the internet so people could get their homes organized somewhere else. It was not in Cincinnati, Ohio.
How much of what you teach is tactical and how much is based on mindset?
In the beginning, it was all tactical because I was a teacher. I didn't know how else to do it. And now I would say it's 90% mindset.
That to me is really interesting. And that's where I really see the parallels between what you do and what I do, because, you know, teachers come to me somewhat for organization, more so for productivity. Organization is a piece of that. And I often find that there's some sort of limiting belief or something else that is holding them back from creating change or from having the life that they want. Because if you want to get organized, there's a gazillion articles out there about how to do it. If it were as simple as just someone giving you a plan and you just follow the plan and then everyone would be organized. If it was as simple as me just saying, here's how to have more work-life balance, do these things, don't do those things, well, then every teacher would have a reasonable workload. There's obviously more to it than that. And it has something to do with that mindset or maybe with like the core beliefs they hold.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that there is an order to organization. So I have determined that the order is decluttering, organizing, productivity. Productivity is the buzzword. Like if you say productivity in any article, any podcast thing, like your download numbers will go through the roof. Everyone wants productivity, but you cannot have productivity without organization, and you can't have organization without decluttering. It has to go in that order. So like, even if you're looking at your 40-hour teacher work club, the first thing you have to do is what can you get off of this list? Like what can you totally just declutter 100%? After you figure out what you can declutter, then you look back at your 62 hours that are left and you go, okay, well, if I combine all the grading on Thursday night, I could take 5 hours of grading and turn it into 3 hours just by organizing it in a certain pod. Or I could take all of our copying. I only go to the office on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that eliminates Tuesday, Thursday. And on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I not only go for copies, but I also go for supplies and anything that needs to be dropped off there or any appointments that I need to make. And so then you start to organize your tasks into batches. That's the organizing part. The productivity comes from working that plan. The productivity is the execution. Organization is how you get to productivity. That didn't answer the question you asked me at all.
No, it totally did. Actually, I'm thinking about that. You're right. It's those 3 steps. And I never quite thought about it through that frame, but you're right. The first thing that I try to get teachers to do is figure out what can I eliminate? Because if you have too many things on the list, it doesn't matter how efficiently you get them done. You're still going to get them all done. And the truth is that a good third of them probably don't even need to be done to begin with. They need to be eliminated, which is the word that I would use, but you're saying decluttered, which is the same thing. Declutter that to-do list, get rid of some stuff first, then organize it, and then follow through with the productivity. How are you going to do it more efficiently?
Yeah. And so if you follow anyone that focuses on only one of those 3, it's because they figured out the other ones intuitively. And so if you have not figured out decluttering and organizing, and you're only going to follow, which you are not, you teach all three. But if you're going to follow a true productivity expert who's not going to teach you the decluttering and organizing steps, you end up frustrated because you understand that they are productively using these checklists and to-do lists and these operating systems, but you didn't do the decluttering and organizing part, so you never get the result that they had. Likewise, if you only focus on decluttering and minimalism, that's really popular right now. So I'm just going to have less, I'm going to have less, I'm going to have less. It gives you an immediate reward because all of a sudden you see less and you feel like this big physical thing because you've just gotten rid of a whole bunch of things. Decluttering is an immediate kind of a high. You can get really addicted to it. But if you don't then organize and increase productivity, then you just keep trying to declutter more to get that high back again, and you don't get it because what's left really shouldn't have been decluttered. And now you're decluttering things that should not have been decluttered, trying to get more organized just from the act of decluttering alone, as opposed to grouping like with like and then productively figuring out where that best fits in your schedule and in your life.
So let's talk about some of these mindset shifts then. So the first step is decluttering. What are some of the beliefs or the mindsets that a teacher would need to have in order to effectively declutter?
Oh, teachers. Well, as teachers, first of all, we can find a use for anything and we want to save it just in case. And if it's paper, we might as well laminate it so it'll last forever. So my husband would joke, like when we were dating, I was a preschool teacher. All I did was color, laminate, and cut out lamination for 2 years straight. He was like, are you just like, then I'd laminate stuff from home. He's like, why does everything have to be laminated? I was like, oh, because this lesson I'm doing now, I'm going to do for the next 20 years. No, you're not. Just in case you're wondering, you're not. But it all has to be colored. And I spent so much time coloring and laminating. I can't even tell you. So the number one thing I would say now being in my mid 40s as a teacher is that I never taught the same grade twice. So if you're making everything permanent so it'll last for 3 to 5 years, but you're never going to teach the same year twice, some of that you might not need to do. And also we would keep, now of course this was in the 90s, but we would have these teacher closets of literally everything. Bottle caps and toilet paper rolls and extra crayons and all of that stuff. And part of decluttering is realizing that today Amazon Prime delivers. I know that costs money, but also you send an email out. All of your parents in your classroom have all of this stuff in their house too. Like you can replenish your whole toilet paper roll in 24 hours. So you could just go ahead and have the hamster have a heyday and eat it all and not store any more toilet paper rolls until you actually know you have something coming up next week where you need those. So the decluttering is having more of a just-in-time inventory or what you have planned in the next month even, not what you might need for the rest of your life.
Yes, just in time instead of just in case.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you know what? Now I think back on my own teaching practice, and I was exactly that teacher. I remember writing all the new state standards on chart strips because we had to display them, laminating them all, which cost the school probably $80 gazillion. And then they changed the standards 3 years later.
We all laminated them. We all laminated them.
And I think about all the learning materials I made. I'm like, this is going to be the best thing ever. I'm going to use this for years. Mm-hmm. And then I wouldn't, because even if I stayed in the same grade level in the same school and the curriculum all stayed the same, which are a whole lot of like ifs, I wouldn't want to do it the same way the next year. I would think of something better or some sort of twist on it. And so I spent a ton of time like trying to make things perfect and, make everything super durable and organized and lasting forever. And the truth was, I just did not need to have nearly that amount of stuff.
I'm just thinking, if instead of all of the preparation we make for the week to go into teaching, where we make everything as new and bright and perfect as it could possibly be, what if we flipped it? And we still did the lesson plans and all of that. And we had all of the materials and we taught it. And then at the end of the week, we were like, okay, of those 20 lessons I taught, these 5 were really good. And these 2 were amazing. And I am going to take an extra 2 hours and take the 2 that were amazing and collect all the samples and put them in a binder and know that I'm going to replicate next year versus doing that with all 20 on the front end.
I love that. Really being intentional about what worked, what didn't work, really being reflective. and
Hmm.
just preserving the things that really deserve to be preserved instead of starting off the planning process assuming that everything should be kept and
Right.
therefore needs to be like amazing. Oh, that's so good. Any other mindset shifts around decluttering that we need to think about? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the classroom. Just anything that you think that a teacher would need to know in order to move forward.
Yeah. So I did a podcast recently, which is decluttering is easy, organizing is hard, and decorating is fun. So productivity and decorating are fun. So decluttering is easy.
Mm.
It's fast. Like it should not take you a year and a half to declutter your classroom, your house, whatever. Like you can literally grab black trash bags, turn on really good high powered music, and declutter any room in 30 minutes or less. Like just the only question you're asking yourself is, do I need this? Nope, nope, nope. Really, you should be asking, donate or trash, donate or trash, donate or trash, and see how much you can get out of that room. Not how you're going to use stuff, but is there anything in here that's trash? And then is there anything in here that's worth donating? And give yourself that space before you get to the organizing step.
And what do you do if you are the type of person who looks around the room and panics and thinks, I need all of these things? What do you tell yourself then?
So in that case, then I would only do like one subject or one shelf or the master bathroom or the laundry room in your house, like an area that isn't as emotionally charged and much smaller, and then just do that one space.
Okay. So start with decluttering in a place that's easier. And then the next step is to move into organization.
Hmm.
And would you
Yeah.
start in that same, so you just decluttered this one area, so then you're going to move into organizing that area that's already been decluttered. You're not going to ever do this out of order. Would you want to have all of your areas decluttered and then do all the organization, or?
You could do that. You could definitely do, like, if you want to take a weekend and just, power through and declutter everything, you definitely could do that.
Okay. Or you could just do one area or one room at a time.
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
So let's say that you have decluttered this one area of your classroom and now you're ready to move into the organization point. What are the mindset shifts that you would need to make here, or maybe some of the limiting beliefs that you would need to watch out for?
Okay, so the first thing with organizing, I'm just thinking of this gigantic middle school classroom closet that we had, and we taught Montessori. So we had a bazillion, million, trillion manipulatives. And my co-teacher was amazing. Like she was wicked smart and like such a fun teacher, not organized at all. And I swear I got the job just to organize this closet, and they pretty much agreed that is why they hired me. So in this closet were all of these materials, but there was no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. Now, there are a couple different ways you could do organizing. One would be to just do like one bookshelf at a time. And I would say this closet was the size of a really small bedroom. Maybe it was like 8 by 8. Like it was not a small closet at all. So what I ended up doing is you only want to organize the space that you have the amount to actually organize and put it back. In this case, I started on a Saturday morning and I cleared out the closet, sorted everything like with like in the classroom, and then I built it back into the closet. I actually think I did it in the summer because it took me a week. And I would put all the science stuff on one table and all the math stuff somewhere else. And then once we pulled it out of the closet, we then saw more things that were broken or could be donated. Although in Montessori, like we get rid of nothing. I'll just let you know. And then we designated back in the closet, bookshelves for each of the subjects or each of the works or each of the levels and put them back in. That would be a huge organizing job that you would do in the summer.
What about in terms of getting organized at home?
You're not going to have time right now to organize your house if you're actively teaching. So don't buy my program. Like, do not join the 100-day program right now. It'll just leave you frustrated. The one thing I would say to do is we have a Sunday basket and we have a teacher box. And those two things organize paper only. So the Sunday basket was created in 2002 when I had 2 babies and I had paper everywhere and I couldn't get anything done. And I'm a productive, organized person, but I was paying my bills late because I couldn't find the bills to pay them because I had this stack 14 inches high of papers on the end of my kitchen counter, adoption paperwork, medical paperwork, direct sales paperwork, just all of it was all mixed in there. I had no system whatsoever. So one Sunday night, everybody fell asleep by 8 o'clock, including my husband. And I divided all my paper out on the family room floor, and I had 40 distinct piles of things that needed action. And I had slash pockets because I was a teacher. So I put them all in 40 different slash pockets, those plastic things that go in binders that have tabs on the end. colors and they're colored.
Mm-hmm.
And I put those in a Longaberger basket. And then I started doing that every single Sunday night. And I called it my Sunday basket all the way back then. And I would go through all of those, decide what had to get done this week. Because here's the thing, you always have more to do than you have time to do it. So it doesn't matter if it needs to be done. The only question is, does it have to be done this week? And so I would ask myself, what has to be done this week? Like if I don't get it done this week, it's late or we miss the registration or something bad happens. And I would keep those out and then I would keep the rest in there. And as I got mail or notes or ideas, I would throw them in the Sunday basket because they could wait until Sunday. Even if like my 2-year-old's toy needed a new battery, I took the toy and I put it in the Sunday basket. And this Sunday basket system and the teacher box system is similar, is really a delayed decision making. Anything that comes at you, like you get a paper from your administrator and you have to make some change in your future lesson plans, where do you put that paper? Where do you put it? So
Right.
in this case,
Right.
you put it in the Friday teacher box. And then on Friday, you go through all those random notes and assignments that have been handed to you and all of your brilliant ideas that you wrote down on Post-it notes. And you go through them and you make decisions. Okay, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? Am I going to do it now or can it wait until next Friday? So often for us women, we are doing so many things, especially during the school year, that you need to delay everything as long as possible. Because here's the thing, this is true. You get a note from your administrator and they're like, you have got to make this change. You need to implement this change by this date. Okay. And so what I would do is I would implement it immediately because I'm a good girl and I want to get an A and I want to be obedient. And by the time that date comes around, they change their mind. They'd rather have it in a different form or submitted somewhere else, or they've decided, we don't need to do that. We need to do this other thing instead. So sometimes when we take action right away so that we don't forget, we end up doing work that we wouldn't have had to do if we waited until it was due, and we would have known about that. If it's in this Sunday basket at home or the Friday box at school, it gives you a place to put all of those things instead of trying to remember them. I have nothing in my head anymore. Like I don't have a to-do list and I have nothing in my head anymore because I have these boxes that I drop all my notes in and a set time every week that I go through them. And I literally have eliminated my to-do list.
I really like what you're saying here about delaying something. And that is going to be news. And that's going to be like just music to people's ears who already kind of procrastinate. Like, yes, I'm doing something right.
That's right. Exactly.
And I think for people like you and I who want to get things done right away, it's really imperative to learn that, because I learned that the hard way. Like I think of it as like sort of doing double work. You do it right away and then you find out something changed. And so you end up having to redo it later. Or it's something that you also have to get involvement from others from. So maybe your coworkers also have to do something. And now you've done your part and they haven't done theirs. So you're waiting around for them. And again, it ends up with double work. So this idea of not necessarily doing it right away, thinking like, when is the optimal time for this? And then either writing it in a to-do list or else putting it into that slash pocket in your work box so you can then deal with it then. Or maybe all those things come on Sunday. Having this system where you're not just reacting to things. And that's something that I hear a lot from teachers is like they have this great plan for the day and it's constantly being thrown off because there's all these other things coming at them. And while it seems like everything is urgent and important, not everything really has to be done immediately. And sometimes we just do it immediately because we're afraid we're going to forget.
Right. And as you get those requests brought to you during the day, the reason why you're doing it right away and interrupting your own plan is because you have your own plan written down. So you know what you were going to do. But if you don't act on this thing that was given to you, when are you going to do it? And are you going to remember to do it? So where do you put it? On your desk? Like there's no place to put it. So if you have a place to put it, a Friday box, then you go, okay, you get this request and the first question you ask yourself is, can this wait till Friday? Yes. Okay. That goes in the Friday box. Yes, it goes in the Friday box. If you do all your grading on Thursday and all your planning on Thursday, then call it the Thursday box. And then you can put all of your grading in there too. Like everything that can wait until that night and you're going to order pizza and you're going to do it at work before you go home is all in that box in one place. And we know that if we sit down and we do all the grading at one time or go through all of the notes at one time or call all the parents at one time, we save so much time from task switching. So task switching can cost up to 20 minutes of time. When that note comes in and you think about what you're going to do, and I'm going to take 2 minutes and I'm going to do this. So you do it. And then you stand there and you go, what was I teaching? Where were we? What are we doing next? And it may not take you 20 minutes because you have your lesson plan written in front of you. In offices, it does take 20 minutes for people to come back around to what they were working on, but it costs us so much time.
So really having this system that allows you to delay things intentionally can keep you from feeling like you just have to try to remember everything or just take action right away.
Yeah, and I have index cards, which as teachers we have everywhere. They're like basically a penny for a pack in August. I buy so many of them. I have them in my car, in my purse, in my kitchen, in my office. And whenever I have an idea, I write it on an index card and I drop it in the appropriate box. So my big thing is books. I'm sure many people listening love books. I love books. So anytime I hear a podcaster talk about a book or anything, when I get to my Sunday basket, there are usually like 7 books in there. Before this, what I would do is I would go on Audible and I would buy the book. Well, half the time I didn't actually want to read the book, but I didn't know how else to remember about the book. So now I look through it and then I look on Sundays, I look at all of their reviews on Amazon. I'm like, which one do I want to read now? Or, like I'm able to make a more thoughtful choice, but not forget about the book. And I didn't put it on a to-do list anywhere. So I'm not like crossing it out and writing it out again and crossing it out and writing it out again. It's just a note card in my Sunday basket. And if reading is a big thing, which it is for me, then I just have a slash pocket called books I want to read someday. And if it's one that I don't buy now, but I think I still might want it, just goes in that pocket and stays there.
I do something sort of similar, but I keep it in lists and I do it digitally. So I use the Notes app, which syncs across my computer and my phone. And I have a note called Books to Read. And when I hear about a book and a friend's recommending it, I just put the title there. And then next time I know that I'm, looking for a new book or, I'm already on Audible or something. I know I've got my new Audible credit for the month. I can go right to that list and it's already there. So, I mean, there's no one right way to do it, but I think experimenting to find something that works for you is really, really important because there's just no way you can hold all this stuff in your head. Are there any other mindset shifts or core beliefs that teachers need to have in order to get the results that they want with organization?
Yeah, to believe that it's progress over perfection. Like you're not going to end up with the perfect system and then there's no more work after this. Like give yourself more grace. You need to give yourself more grace. And just realize that you're doing the best you can and that organization is a lifelong skill. It's a learnable skill. You'll get more productive every day. And take a look back at where you were. Like often people will be going through my programs and they're like, it is my 3rd time through this 100-day program and I just do not feel like I'm making any progress. And I'll be like, okay, well, let's think back to what your house looked like. Because I'll know. I'm like, I know you're making progress, but you can't remember. I often tell people to take pictures before they start my program because they forget what it looked like because they're striving for a magazine or a Pinterest image or perfection, and they're not realizing how much massive change they're making in their functional organizing every day.
Yeah, I noticed that with club members too. They're so busy focusing on what could be possible and what they're going towards, they don't realize how far they've come. And so when you really take that step back, which we try to do at the end of every month and then do a deeper dive reflection every quarter, and really think about what were the changes that I implemented. And they realize I did a lot on top of running a household, being a parent, being a full-time teacher. Like I did a lot of stuff. And so much of this is going to be done in baby steps. It doesn't have to be this gigantic, overhaul that you do all at once. It really can be spread out over time. And it's always going to be a work in progress, as you said.
Yes, definitely. Just, giving yourself the credit that you give your kids in the classroom. Like, give yourself some of that.
That's so good. Anyone who's joined the club is listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, Lisa and Angela say the exact same thing. And we
totally do. So Jana approached me. She listens to both podcasts. She emailed me. She's like, okay, you have got to talk to Angela and you two have got to meld minds on this whole teacher thing. So thank you, Jana.
I know. I'm so glad someone introduced us because we really are just preaching the same gospel here. And it's so fun to watch people's lives be changed because of this. I mean, this is something that comes naturally to me, like it comes naturally to you. And it took me a long time to even figure out that other people didn't know this stuff. Like the things that you just sort of like, I don't know. I just see solutions, and I didn't realize that not everyone sees it, and that this was actually like a gift and a talent I had to help people in this way. And it's just really cool to be able to use that and to not make every single person reinvent the wheel from scratch for themselves. Like, let those of us who enjoy thinking about this stuff figure it out so that you don't have to, and you can think about all the stuff that you're really good at.
Yeah. And I think, for teachers, sometimes it's better because you can walk around the building and find another teacher and ask them how they're doing it and learn from them. In another way, you kind of want to have it all together. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to necessarily let anybody know that you don't know what's going on, or you don't have it as together as you think other people do, which by now you've probably figured out they don't either. And then in diving into organizing the home like I do, well, for sure, everybody's isolated in their home, and all they see is the Instagram images that you put up there, or the Pinterest images, or the magazine images, or the TV images, and they think that everyone else has it all together and they don't. And so to reach that homeowner with the same message of, here are some ways that'll get your home more organized when I'm not physically inside your home, like people can physically come inside your classroom. It is a gift to reach women and help them realize that we're all the same. Often my podcast listeners, as I'm sure yours do too, will say, it's like you have a camera in my house. You're like watching me. And I'm very seasonal as you are. So I'm like, okay, so right now your issue is, they're like, how do you know? Like literally that became my issue this week. How do you know that's what I'm struggling with this week? And it's just because we are teachers. And so you are our students, and we watch you as much as you watch the students in your classroom, and you know where they're starting to struggle, or when you're teaching this certain lesson, the whole class tends to struggle at this time with this concept. We get it.
That's right. And your podcast is really structured in that way. I've noticed that you do a lot of seasonal things, like the topics that come up. I'm like, oh, this is right on time. This is exactly what people need. Tell us a little bit about the Organize 365 podcast, because I know that everyone listening to this is obviously an avid podcast fan and is looking for more great audio content. I get requests all the time from good audio podcast recommendations. So if you are interested in organization, Lisa has some really great topics that she covers.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it is kind of like a classroom, and I am a big thinker and a questioner like you are, Angela, and a teacher. And so really, I find that the best lessons, or the best teachers that I loved to learn from, were not the ones that were just like, okay, do X, Y, Z, but the ones that really made you think about it a different way, struggle with something in your mind, and then help you come to a resolution on it. And usually I always put a bow on the end, like, here are your action steps, because I'm a teacher and I can't help it. But I help you with how to organize your home. But what I found is, my big thing is, the women's movement is really big right now in women's empowerment. And what I think is holding us back is not men, but our homes. And I know that's kind of controversial to say that, but we have these expectations for ourselves in our homes that we will not let go of. And so we are trying to do all of those things, and all of the work things, and all of the personal things, and all of the parenting things, and just too many things. We're just trying to hold too tightly to all of these things. So I help you think bigger about, why are you organizing your house the way you are? And if you live in your house a long time like I do, I've lived here 22 years. We bought the house before kids, then we had babies, then grade school, then middle school, then high school, and now I have a college kid, and soon there'll be empty nesters. You do not organize your house the same way in all those stages of life. So what stage of life are you in? What size house do you have? What are your income requirements and the amount of money you can or can't spend on organizing your house right now? And then along those 22 years, I've battled with infertility and depression and family members with ADHD. And I dive into all of those different topics as they relate to how our households run.
It's really fascinating. And I've heard you say that before, about how it's really our households that are holding us back. Can you say more about that? It's the expectations that we're creating for ourselves.
Yeah, here's a great example. Growing up, and I do think it is generational. So I'm Gen X, I'm 46 years old. Growing up, my parents are the oldest of the baby boomers, and my dad loves that you vacuum the whole entire house. So at 5 o'clock every night, somebody in the family would vacuum the house, my mom, my sister, or I, so that my dad would come home to a perfectly vacuumed house.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got married, and so I thought, married equals perfectly vacuumed house, right? And so I vacuum the house, not every day, but probably 3 or 4 times a week. And then we had 1 baby, and then we had 2 babies, and I was working from home. Like, I was working full time in my creative memories business, and I was earning a full-time paycheck. And every day at 5:00, I was trying to vacuum the whole house and have a beautiful meal on the kitchen table, which is hilarious because I can't cook. I wasn't very good at it then either, but I would do it anyway. Lots of casseroles. My husband will never eat a casserole again. And we were probably 7 years into our marriage. The kids were toddlers. And, Greg would come home and I'd be like, do you see I vacuumed? Like, look what I did. And he said, yeah. I was like, I vacuum like 3 to 4 times a week for you because I don't care that the kids, I'm not a germaphobe. So I was not doing it for that reason. And he said, yeah, well, it's nice, but it's not necessary. I was like, nice, but not necessary. It's necessary. And then I was like, oh my gosh, for 7 years. Do you know how many hours of vacuuming that is? It's hot. It's sweaty. I'm just telling you. I would vacuum the entire house. He didn't really care. What are we doing because we think that it needs to be done? There is so much in our house that we are doing that either A, completely does not need to be done, or B, we're trying to please our parents. We're trying to please our spouse. We're trying to prove we're a good mother. I organized, a lady was divorced. She had 6 children. And she was working full time at the time when I was organizing for her. And she had every single paper saved for every single child, every math test, every spelling test. You guys know how much stuff this is, right? Every phonics paper, every newsletter, everything by year, by tub. I think it was 140 tubs. I brought them all to my house and I turned them into 2 to 3 albums for each child, binders of all of their schoolwork. And I got rid of almost all of it. And she said, the reason why I had everything in those tubs is because I was a stay-at-home mom. And if I had all of that documentation organized by child, that meant I was doing my job well. Wasn't a kid's expectation or a husband expectation or anybody's expectation, but her own expectation on herself that because she was a stay-at-home mom without an earned income, she needed to be able to prove to herself that what she was doing had some kind of a tangible benefit that she could see, and she turned it into these 140 tubs of every single paper that you guys have ever made any kid anywhere do. She had them all in her house, every single last one. It's all in our mind.
Any final parting words that you want to leave teachers with? Anything that they should really remember and think about in the week ahead as they sort of digest all that we've talked about?
What do you want to use your free time for? What's uniquely you? What is the thing that you were uniquely gifted and created to do, which is scary? And then what's the first step you can take towards spending your time in that? And it can be teaching. Like, it doesn't have to be something different, but maybe in teaching it is creating your own curriculum or creating a blog or coordinating, an after work teacher thing once a month so that your school has better community together. It could be teaching relating, but what is it that you have a burning desire you've always wanted to do, or you were created for this thing, and then take the next step to do that.
Thanks for listening. And remember that Lisa has a free podcast called Organize 365. The link to it is in the show notes, as well as the link to her teacher workbox system, which will help you tame that paper monster in your classroom. Have a great week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.